Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Gong, and I'm the Executive Director of CAAM. I'm very happy to be here. You've just watched two short films, Mother Tongue and Vanishing Chinatown. Although different in form and style, both of these films speak from the heart about the fragility of memory and intergenerational loss and recovery within the Chinese American experience. I'm very happy to have the chance to talk with the creative teams of both of these films, so let's get started. I'm happy to introduce the director of Mother Tongue, Eris Qian, and the two lead actors, Jenny Lin and Min-Wen Huang. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Hi,
Hi.
Stephen.
Good. I hope you're all
Um,
doing well. Let's get started. Eris, if you don't mind, tell us about the origins of this film. And is it based on your own family's experience?
Yes, of course. So this film is loosely inspired by my own experience with my paternal grandmother, who had been living with Alzheimer's for around 14 years at the time when I made the film. And growing up, she spoke a certain dialect, and I only spoke Mandarin, so we were not able to really communicate verbally ever. But I never doubted that she really loved me dearly until she got that disease, and then she started fading. And at the same time, as a first generation Chinese immigrant, I also have this sour feeling of too little too soon, not being able to spend enough time to be with my grandmother and my parents made me feel kind of sad and guilty. And then I really wanted to express that feeling and my nostalgia for home in this film.
Oh, wonderful. You know, I myself am a fifth generation Chinese American on one side, like Gold Rush Chinese, and third
Mhm.
generation on the other. So I cannot speak Chinese, and much to my sorrow and regret. So I thought especially found this gulf, right, of communication to be very, very uh, moving, and I thought it was a very bold artistic choice of yours not to use subtitles. Can you tell us a little bit more about your thinking about this when you laid out your film?
Of course. So I think the film was primarily made for Asian Americans and the general American audience who might not speak Mandarin, which was the language of the mother in the film. And I really wanted the audience to be able to step into Lisa's shoes and experience the frustration and sorrow that she experienced. And just along the same lines, I always get bothered when I see an American film about another culture, but everyone speaks perfect English. I just thought, it's a perfect chance to present the reality of bilingual communities and present the struggles of, Asian American communities who had been not suffering, but had been experiencing this heritage language loss.
Absolutely. Thank you. It makes it perfect. You know, I just want to compliment you again. It's such a little gem of a film. In under 10 minutes, you're able to convey so much meaning and emotion. Truly wonderful. And you were so fortunate to have two actors here who could convey so much with a look and with a pause and not having to rely, in a sense, on the dialogue. Um, so, Min-Wen and Jenny, I'd like to now turn to you a bit. Your performances are amazing, and I wonder about the preparation for this for these roles. Did you have to, as I said, without having a lot of dialogue, so much was conveyed just in your look. Could you tell us each a little bit about your preparation for the film? Did you have to, in a sense, and maybe Min-Wen in particular, how do you what kind of preparation did it take to try to portray someone who has advanced Alzheimer's?
yeah, because that's my sorrow, my experience, because my father had this disease, and during that time, in the beginning, I didn't realize for that because father always like strong support in the family. I never think about he will go to that stage. Yeah, and I'm lucky to meet Eris, and he brought me to this film. He is a lovely, strong, smart, professional young lady. Yeah, he gave me the chances. I can review the feeling and my sorrow during that time. Yeah, I can express, tell the people, other people, you know, what my father feeling during that time. Yeah, I, I'm so thank you. I'm so appreciate can join this team and work with those beautiful ladies. Yeah.
That's lovely. And Jenny, yes, I do want to especially congratulate you to have to carry that burden really of sorrow. It's so culturally specific, I guess I would say too. And so I wonder for you, what kind of preparation, what did you want to bring into this role?
Right. Thank you for saying that. Well, for me, like Wendy, I was also drawing from experience. Since my paternal grandmother had Alzheimer's as well, and it was just from experience how to reach those emotions and her memory loss and that feeling again. And for me, I'm a first generation Asian American. I can speak a dialect of Chinese, but it's sometimes still difficult to communicate with parents and grandparents. And so I was basically just drawing from experience. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
I have to add on this. Sorry, Stephen. I have to add on this because I met Min-Wen and Jenny during audition, and the reason I cast them was like both of them deeply connected with the script immediately, and both of them shed tears just upon the first time they were reading the script. So I think, it's like karma, or you say 缘分 in Chinese, like we all share the experience as a caregiver to Alzheimer's patients, and then we all have a deep connection to the Chinese culture that we were portraying in this film.
Thank you very much. Just reflecting on my own family's experience with all of this, and maybe to the broader issue, I was really taken as you were talking, Eris, about how you will even design this film in a sense for the Chinese American audience. I think it's a point of cultural pride often that the Chinese it's part of Chinese culture to take care of your parents, right? And quite often in my own family's experience, sort of one of the children would end up living, right, with the grandparents toward the end. And I thought it was an interesting and subtle touch, right, that many audiences may not realize, but you've built in the notion that Jenny's character, she's married a Caucasian and she's pregnant, and we see, this is the economy. I just want to congratulate you. Without a lot of exposition, we can read so much. Part of that dilemma for Jenny's character is that there is not that same understanding of the ability, maybe in America, because we are so broken into these nuclear families and we don't live in extended family settings. Anyway, I'm saying too much, but seemed to me it's part of the conceptualization you had for the film, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much. You're a really good audience, being able to read so much out of it. I agree that there is a lot of cultural context that if the audience is not familiar with, they might not be able to pick it up, including what you talked about, how Asians pride ourselves for, carrying out the family responsibility by taking care of our parents in no matter how difficult the situation is, and like you said, there's a certain social stigma when the children have to put their parents into a special facility. And there's also this cultural context of the symbolism of the moon, which is great because we just had the full moon festival. And I'm sure if you're from the East Asian culture, you would know the moon symbolizes family reunion and, you know, just like a good harvest, a good life. But sometimes it could be missed for a Western audience who doesn't have that cultural context. Yeah, it's just
that's
one
wonderful.
of the things.
Yeah, so much. And then one particular thing that I would love to hear you talk about a little was that ending poem, that sort of dream sequence, if I have that right. Where did you shoot that? It looked, I mean, it was China.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you recognize it's really authentic. So there is actually an authentic Chinese garden in Staten Island in New York. So it was built, I believe, I might be wrong, in the 1990s or 70s, I'm not sure, but it was built by a construction company from Suzhou, China, where this style of gardens are originated from, and it was part of a cultural exchange project. So I really appreciate that they allowed us to shoot there, so we were able to present a really authentic, you know, architectural experience.
Yeah, lovely, lovely, lovely. Well, we're just about out of time, but I did want to ask you all, you know, what's next for you? Do you have other projects, or we just have to wait for the end of this pandemic? What you got going? And Eris, how about you first?
Oh,
and then
okay. Sure. Yeah, during the pandemic, I guess the only thing we could do is to write. I do have some shorts project that was scheduled to shoot, but unfortunately had to be delayed. And I'm also developing this feature script called Pulling Seedlings. And we actually got selected to the Stowe Story Lab in October. So very excited. And I'm just hoping to, you know, push it forward every day.
Oh, wonderful. We'll stay in touch. We look forward to hearing much more from you. I know that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that this is going to be great. And Jenny and Min-Wen, how about you two?
Sure. Well, at the moment, I just recently finished helping out with the New York Asian Film Festival. I'm part of their staff, and I'm part of their development team. So we just had our online film festival. Now we're just like coming off of that. So, yeah.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
And Min-Wen, how about you?
Me, right now, because I'm in New York, because the COVID-19, so most of the time I stay at home. Yeah, just study some books, you know. Nothing special, just like a semi-retirement.
Okay, well, take care. Be safe, be well. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and now I'd like to introduce Emiko Omori, the director and editor of Vanishing Chinatown, and Wylie Wong, the producer and one of the subjects of the documentary film. Hello, you two. Hi, Emiko. I see you're being very safe.
You're the cat lady.
You know, and it's an important reminder that, you know, we just want to tell everyone, be safe out there. If you go outside, wear a mask, you know, it's for the good of everyone. And so I know, thank you, Emiko, for that little health bulletin. You know, I have to tell you, my background's in film archiving and film preservation, and I love your project. And Wylie, all of us, we can never thank you enough for having the foresight to save all of those 700 photographs and keeping this important story alive that we can all now enjoy. So thank you all very, very much. So I'd like to start, as I say, Wylie, maybe bring us back if you can. You know, it's amazing that you happen to be just walking by a storefront. I think we're going to have a little bit of an issue. So I think, Wylie, is going to come back and join us as soon as he reboots. This is one of the factors of the Zoom world. And you know what? So I'm going to turn this a little, Emiko, and you know, you've been in our community. You were one of our most acclaimed, important Asian American filmmakers from
Thank you.
the very earliest days. You and I have known one another a long time, and you have been a spotlight recipient of ours for your body of work. There you go. So Wylie, tell us a little bit about your recognition of the importance of this, and then I'm going to turn to Emiko to tell us sort of when you came onto the project and the part of the role that you played. But Wylie, if you can, you understood the significance of these photographs right away. You were able to save a bunch of them. But that was the 70s, right? That was 40 years ago. How did the film come about, you know, from your perspective? Were you just waiting for the rest of us all to catch up to how important these photographs are?
Wylie, are you stuck? Oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh dear. Okay.
He has a very poor connection at his place. So
Yeah.
every time we try to have a meeting.
Well, you know, maybe you could fill us in, Emiko. When did you first start hearing about this collection and the possibilities of doing a film?
Well, all right. You know that they started this project in let's see, when was it? In, the year 2000. See, that's like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I you know, I've shot some stuff for them, you know, just helping them along, and but then they got sort of stuck. Life took over, and so here's what I've kind of prepared. It's like last night, no, I revisited seeing Vanishing Chinatown. I hadn't seen it for a while, and I was completely struck again about the beauty of the photographs. That's what got me interested in this project. Here was a master photographer artist, and his work was not known. And the fact that these were almost lost was completely, and serendipity stepped in, and Wylie walked by this place at this very moment and saw these photographs. I mean, it's kind of like snatched from oblivion, you know. So I knew about it for all those years. I helped on it on occasion, and then finally in 2 or 3 years ago, Lydia convinced me to come on, and I will say that, okay, this is a disclosure here. It was a mess when I took it over. It was like, you know, and I'll tell you what brought it all back together. And it was through all kinds of, again, serendipitous things. We had on our website, we were asking people like, did anybody know about this family or whatever? And we managed to connect to the granddaughter of this family, because they're gone. Everybody was gone by the time this movie started. And so it was like, you know, and not many people knew about the couple because, you know, they were a commercial photography studio. And it is where I call the dream factory. It's where people get to act out and be remembered as they would like to be remembered. And so this is something I found because I recently revisited again Our Time Machine, and then I saw Mother Tongue. And this is in the words of Ma Leon, the artist from Our Time Machine. He said that he described Our Time Machine as being about love and death, memory and continuity. And I think that is the theme that runs through our 3 films. And
yes.
Malion loved, he collected old photographs from, and he loved especially the ones from studios, and how this was a dying art. There, and so he had a project. Let's see, it was called My Mobile Photo Studio, and he went to like 35 cities in China, and he brought props and backdrops and everything, and he allowed people to choose the character they wanted to play or whatever. Again, it's to me, Malion is a director, as was our photographer Leo. He would direct people, put props up, and and in Japanese culture we have the picture bride concept, and I know from that people, men especially, because they were here just like the Chinese workers, the workers that were here wanting to have wives, would have their photos taken, and they would often borrow a suit or stand in front of a car like, this is my car or my home or whatever, to it's their dream. And so I found Leo to be so theatrical, and probably because of his association with the opera.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Well, it all comes around. And mentioning this other film, which we showed at CAAMFest last year, it's called Our Time Machine. Thank you for that.
People got to see it on a big screen. It is so
beautiful. It's beautiful, and it was just broadcast. But thank you, and that's pretty amazing. You start your film with, I think, a beautiful exposition explaining that for the 60 years that the Chinese Exclusion Act was enforced, families could not reunite. Most of the men who were here in the United States working had left families behind, and through, as you demonstrate for us, a photo studio rooted in the community was able to reunite these families, if only photographically. That's so amazing and so touching. And then, and then to complete the thought toward the end, the photographs from the Maze studio that I find especially amazing are the ways that they documented Chinese opera, which I have come to understand San Francisco was one of the real hubs, right, to continue to bring in Chinese opera troupes throughout the 20th century. And I think some still make regular visits here even today. It's amazing. So
they were exempt from the Exclusion Act.
That's right. Yes.
Artists. So they could come.
Yes. So what an amazing, and I think, and I can imagine, all the more. It's a shame that Wylie isn't here to hear us, but you'll convey this, just how appreciative we are that he understood innately the importance of these photographs, and I actually dare say, our understanding of their importance, of the critical role of Maze Studio, I think, is only now being truly deeply understood. Wylie, can you hear us?
Oh,
please.
We can. He's sort of moving.
This is kind of interesting. It's kind of like a Maze Studio piece that we. Well, we're nearing the end. Emiko, tell us about how are you finding a different experience, from general audiences versus Asian American audience with regard to this film? I know you were up in Sacramento. Was it a mixed audience when you guys showed it up there?
Yes, we had a wonderful audience. It cuts across. It's those photographs. They're so beautiful. And they're able to convey certain ideas that I don't have to say. For instance, that kind of collaging, which was like pre-Photoshop. And, from the very beginning of photography, photographers were always manipulating things, kind of like the beginning of motion pictures. It was like magic. So collaging, those big panoramic pictures, that was like the going thing around, the beginning of in the 20th century. So Leo just sort of fit right in, and he learned all these techniques. And but I think it's George Bertisevich that he says in the film, they were far more than a commercial photography studio. He may have started that way, but it just seems that and I think it's really part of that relationship to the opera, kind of theatrical. And he had these beautiful backdrops available to him. And Malion, by the way, in his portable photo studio, he painted a bunch of backdrops. So I feel like they're kins, and their artistic impulses are very similar. And so, and I think we could also tell much more the story of the Chinese in America becoming Chinese Americans without having to go into things about it. I wanted to include one story in it, which I did not, but it would have been very specific to our cultures and not to the outside cultures, which was the making of hamyu. This, you use fermented fish on top of pork to make this. It sounds kind of terrible. I think it isn't acquired.
Oh, no, it's wonderful.
But I couldn't fit it in. I didn't really have enough images to cover it, because those were the fishing images that I had. And I had to get to those somehow. I mean, part of the soundtrack was just to get to the photos. And so Corinne, the wonderful, and she was a director's dream. We had not met. She came over. This is, of course, pre-COVID and everything. We flew her over. And she turned out to be so wonderful and so warm and so, like the director's dream of oh my gosh, now the heart has come into the movie. That's where I was getting to before, that when I came to it, it didn't have a heart. It had a lot of information, a lot of great images, but no real soul. And then Corinne brought that to it, the human touch. And, obviously her grandfather had a great sense of humor. I love those, like the fish heads. The guys on the bodies of the fish. So part of the making of it was how to get to those photographs was, some little story. For instance, the dentist, that might not be maybe even a great photo, but I wanted to show that Chinatown had all these things going on in there. They had their own dentists, and they had, there was a bakery, the interiors, because many of the photos from what I would call outside photographers are from the outside. They're street scenes and this and that. This is the inside out. And Wylie, I wish you could talk. He says in the film that once you went outside of the boundaries.
I wish I could do.
We hear Wylie speaks.
Oh,
please share whatever you want,
yeah.
Wylie.
I keep tuning out. It keeps
yes
disconnecting me. So anyway, I'm glad I can say a few words.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say the May Studio was my first art collection, and it was almost free. Almost free. And I've always loved rare art traditions. So finding the Chinese opera photographs was, I knew they were important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wylie. Thank you for everything you've done to preserve this incredible legacy. Emiko, thank you for telling the story of May's Studio. We wish you the best. We're kind of out of time, but I want to wish you well and plenty of bandwidth.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Emiko, did you need to finish your story?
I just want to finish the story about Wylie in the movie saying, once you went outside the boundaries of China.
Well, I'm the finder.
It was very, it was foreign and hostile. And that really is the inside view. Everybody thinks it's the Chinese that are the exotic and foreign weirdos, But in fact, the Chinese felt the same way about the white people out there. They were kind of weird and rough and, so it's again, this we've tended to look at our communities from people writing about us. And so I just wanted to convey, yeah, if you were a Chinese person, you came to America, you would have found it just the craziest, weirdest, the food, the people, the way they lived, it would have been just the same way for the people coming here. Not, anyway, that was an epiphany I learned some years ago about the outside in, the inside out version of history.
Well, thank you for sharing that story with us. Thank you for the film. Take care.
Well, thanks.
And thank all of you for joining us. I hope you enjoy the films, and I hope you enjoy and take in more films of the festival, and we will see you down the road. Bye-bye.